Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is George Kingsnorth, and in this second episode of Let's Talk, my guest is Wayne Denner, the technology entrepreneur, and we are looking at the reach of the internet. If you like this episode, please subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook. It's interesting because I remember 1994 was roughly the first time I experienced the internet, and we had a computer and we'd heard about all these viruses and things that could get to you, and you were kind of going, I don't know whether to go on the internet or because all these things are going to attack me. So there was a kind of fear, but I don't know if that's my generation. How did your generation cope with it?
Yeah, no, I was right in there. I didn't care. I wanted to sort of chat with people and, send emails and look stuff up. And, I was doing sort of very, very early basic HTML coding back then, putting together really, really awful websites that by today's standard, you would probably throw up if you seen the types of websites that we were putting together, because they just were visually not appealing compared to what you can do nowadays. But I was very interested in that, and particularly the reach of the internet. That was the thing that really interested me. The fact that I could put something online today and somebody could access it in North America. That just blew my mind, because suddenly, back then it was difficult to communicate with people, in the sense it wasn't instantaneously. You maybe had to write a letter or you had to phone somebody up. Now suddenly you could go onto your computer and you could send an email and that person would have it couple of seconds later, or you were waking up the next morning. I remember this because we had a PC in our house, and it was one of those, I don't know if you remember, but the old time PC machines. There were something like 1,200 quid to buy at the time, not like today. Like, I went and bought a laptop last week. It was like 299 quid. Yep. Back then you're paying like 1,400 to 2,000 pounds for a machine that would take up your whole living room. Yeah. And it was so slow. But I remember coming down in the morning. This was the very, very early days of AOL, which some people call AOL. Yes. It was slow, it was dial-up internet, right? But I remember getting so excited to wake up in the morning, switch on my computer, to hear that noise, you've got mail. Yes. Somebody had sent me an email, and I was going to click on it and I could read what that person was saying. And that could be somebody sending me an email from another part of the world. And in that day, it was because I had friends in America who were emailing. And that's the way the technology was then. It's not like today where it was instantaneous in the sense of instant message like WhatsApp or DMs on Instagram. It was email. But I was right on in there. I was full on in. I loved it. I spent a lot of time on it. For me, it was trying to figure out, right, how can I use this to make money at some point?
I've come through traditional media. I've also taught on the course that you did as well, which is I didn't realize. And one of the problems I think my generation would have is that we're being very structured or you have to follow certain procedures to do X, Y, and Z. And every time you try and break out of that mold, you're almost, oh no, you have to fit into this mold again, which I tried not to do. But it doesn't sound as though you ever did. And I think that's what gave you the advantage, possibly because you didn't see any limitations.
Yeah, that's been a benefit to me and a disadvantage to me in some cases. And the disadvantage has always been, because I didn't, work for the large organization or different work for the corporate sector or what it was, I didn't come out of school or college or university and go and get a full-time job. The thought of that actually made me sick, because I didn't really want to work for an organization. I love the aspect of being freelance, being, self-employed, maybe being, not being, and I suppose not being restricted to the 9 to 5. That's kind of not the way I operate, and I've never really operated like that. I do some of my best work when I'm not in the parameters of a 9 to 5, right? Or when I'm not in the parameters of you must be here in this office at 9 and you must leave at 5. Well, no, I want to go out for coffee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and try and get some creative, processes going. And a lot of organizations still today in 2018 don't cater for that. So that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. It can be a bad thing in the sense of I found in my early days that all of my friends were making a lot more money than me. because they were working for organizations and they were moving through the corporate structure. They were becoming managers and senior managers, or they left school and they became a joiner or a bricklayer or electrician. And suddenly they were making a lot more money than me. I focused front loading my education on learning the practicalities of the stuff that I wanted to do, and also learning really how communication works, how to build relationships with people, and understanding that today might not be the day that I make or I become the success story. It might be further down the lines. And I've always realized that, and I've heard this saying before, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. You got to work at it, you got to keep going at it, but you got to be stick on that path, and you got to be consistent at what you're doing. So those types of structures for me don't work, and still don't work today. And we still have organizations that are created in such a way that a lot of people within the organization find it difficult to be creative, because the restrictions are so tight and the parameters are set in such a way that it doesn't allow for that. And I think that has a knock on. I think our education system as well, and I have children as well that are going through the education system at the moment, and I find is not catered for every child.
Well, one of the things I found about education, and I mentioned earlier on in the pre-ramble that I've got a couple of master's degree and various other qualifications, and you've now got to the point where you've got a master's degree. Now, when I left school, I was expected to go into a boot factory because I come from Northamptonshire, but I wanted to go into media. So I found my way into media. And HND travelled me through at least 20, and even today, I'm still using the information from how to construct media. All the other ones were because I was just interested in doing it, and I did it on the journey of work, alongside work, not piling up debt at the very beginning. Would that be a similar experience that you've had?
Yeah, I think that's very smart, because if we look at the students today, they rack up an incredible amount of debt. I don't know, I read somewhere recently, the average student is leaving, 60 to 80 grand worth of debt. I mean, that's crazy, lots and lots of debt. And it's so easy actually to run that up, because when you think of how much things cost nowadays, and not only that, but when I was going through university, a lot of it was means tested, so you could access affordable education. It's becoming very, very difficult for young people to do that nowadays. And I think what I would like to see more of is there is a lot of emphasis on the professional qualifications. And don't get me wrong, they're important. Absolutely, you want to get your GCSEs and you want to get your A-levels under your belt. And well, I don't know, maybe a degree's useful, maybe it's not. I don't know, it just depends on what it is. Me per se, as if I was an employer or I was employing somebody tomorrow and somebody came to me and could do the practical aspect, that would outshine a lot more than the qualification would for me, because I need people who can do stuff. Yet the qualifications can always come later and further down the line, and you can study for them at night class. You don't necessarily need to be putting yourself in a massive amount of debt just to get that qualification. You'd nearly be better spending a little bit of time maybe gathering some equipment up or figuring out how a certain thing works and learning how to do that really, really well, and then charging that as a chargeable service that people will pay for. And while they're paying for that service, you're putting yourself through college.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.